Well, hello everyone and welcome to the webinar today. Just a few housekeeping things before we start the discussion on GIS-Centric. We'll keep the webinar to 30 minutes today. We'll have questions at the end and a few polls throughout. If you have questions as we go, please type them into the questions section of the GoToWebinar and we'll answer those at the end. So the discussion today is about GIS-Centric. What is it and why does it matter? The reason for talking about this is that GIS has become ubiquitous and mapping capability has become something that almost everyone is familiar with, even if they're not a GIS expert. So when a software program refers to itself as GIS-Centric, what does that mean? Well, what it means really is that the GIS database is the one and only database. An example of this is CityWorks. Azteca CityWorks is an asset management system used by a lot of cities and counties, and maybe some of you use it as well. And CityWorks basically, its asset registry is the GIS database. So then every activity that takes place is connected to those GIS assets. So because that's the one and only database that's used by the software, then there's no need to interface the program with GIS or import-export data or synchronize data. Everything just is in the GIS. That's an important consideration when you're trying to put together enterprise systems. Anytime there needs to be interfaces between systems, it's additional complexity and additional stuff that has to be maintained by either GIS or IT or by consultants and vendors. Another thing that GIS-Centric means, though, is that if some software is GIS-Centric, it means that you can make full use of the rest of the GIS platform. Now, one assumption that I'm making in the discussion today, which is a pretty safe assumption in the US, is when we talk about GIS, we're almost always talking about Esri GIS. In city and county government in the United States, Esri has like 95% of the market share, so it's a pretty safe assumption to talk about it like that. But what does it mean to have full use of the GIS platform? Well, in addition to just having the ability to make maps and visualize things, there's still the need for at least some people to be able to do in-depth analysis or desktop editing of networks and parcel fabrics, etc. So ArcGIS Desktop, for example, still has all of those very specific tools for doing those kinds of workflows. It also means, though, being able to use other GIS applications, and maybe some of you are using some of the other Esri apps along with whatever else you're doing, such as Esri Collector or the web app builder or other apps, maps and apps that are available from Esri. Another thing that GIS-Centric means is that if a software says that it is that, it's easier to integrate with other GIS-Centric software, again, because GIS is the place where all the data is kept. So what does GIS-Centric not mean? Well, it doesn't mean merely dots on a map or a database system that also can show you a map display. It doesn't mean being able to export data to a GIS format so that you can load it into another program, or merely printing a map. I want to be careful about how I put this, though, because all of us have used consumer mapping tools that let us do these things, and it's not unimportant. Consumer mapping has put a lot of pressure on GIS companies like Esri, I think, to be more user-friendly. If there's one thing that GIS has typically not been in the past, it was user-friendly. That's changing, I believe. Esri's platform with web apps and consumer tools for smartphones and tablets, that is changing. But merely being able to display a map doesn't make a system GIS-centric. And any one of you who has had to support applications that keep their data in a proprietary format and that need to import and export in order to work with other systems know that this can be a difficult challenge. So that's where we sort of come in as I talk about a few of the things in our mosquito control software. Our mosquito control software is GIS-centric, and many of you are familiar with either Sentinel or FieldSeeker GIS. Sentinel GIS being the desktop-based mosquito control operational data collection system, and FieldSeeker GIS being the server-based. I want to talk just a little bit about how we can make use of the platform with these software tools as an example. And I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of field technicians and field supervisors and then executive managers. And so one of the ways that the software FieldSeeker or Sentinel powers field technicians is to be able to make important decisions while in the field, to be able to see what's been going on in the area, whether you're the person whether that field tech is the person that's been doing the work in the past, or maybe if they're filling in for somebody else. One of the things that many organizations have been asking for quite a while is on-truck inventory tools. A lot of scrutiny comes to bear on the use of products in the field, and so being able to keep track of all that rolling stock is important. We released an iOS mobile application this year and have quite a few people using it on iPads and iPhones. This is built on Esri's iOS runtime tools, and so it works with ArcGIS Server. And because it's in a connected environment, then the field techs are able to get instant notification of service requests. They're also able to, as they complete their work and record their activities, then people in the office and supervisors are able to see what's going on as that work is completed. The last bullet point there is also an important one. One of the disconnects sometimes in mosquito control organizations is things like trap results or other historical information that's often entered in the lab or in the office, not always being visible to the field tech. And sometimes the field technicians really are the public face of the organization, being asked questions by homeowners and people in the neighborhood. Being able to see what's going on, what's happened recently, recent truck treatments or aerial treatments, recent trap results, helps them to explain better what's going on when someone asks, and also helps them in their decision making. I want to talk next about being able to empower operations supervisors. So operations supervisors I typically work with people that occupy that position whenever I'm working on a FieldSeeker or Sentinel project. And they're among the busiest people that I've ever encountered, often running crews of 5, 10, 20 people, as well as doing a lot of work themselves. So being able to quickly visualize what's going on is important. Our mosquito control software has sort of evolved from merely record keeping to being able to visualize trends. And so the ArcGIS platform helps us do this a lot more effectively, being able to see hotspots, being able to time enable maps and see where the service requests are coming from, what the landing counts or trap results have been doing. This helps operations supervisors to use the resources that they have most effectively. And then executive decision makers need to be able to see how effective things are. So dashboards, story maps, presentation templates, and PowerPoint tools. The Esri platform has all of these components to not only help with seeing how operations are going, but also being able to present that information to the board or to the public. Another example of this is just status maps on public websites, being able to help the public answer some of their own questions. And along with that line, this can be something as simple as where spraying has taken place recently, or where activities are planned for the near future. It can also include something as simple as the district boundaries and who to contact. Sometimes, as a member of the public, trying to find who to contact to get some help on whatever issue is in front of me can be very frustrating. So even a simple map that shows, here's the district boundaries and here's who to contact can be quite useful. I'm going to show some of these examples here after talking about them, such as the geo form for getting service requests and the district boundaries map. These are fairly simple examples, but they're examples of using the platform on top of this GIS-centric solution. I might just ask a poll here. I've got a question that I'd like to know from the audience here. We talked a little bit earlier about CityWorks as an asset management system. I'm just curious to see how many people in the audience use either CityWorks or other asset management systems. So if you would take just a minute and answer that poll. Okay, about 80% have voted. Looks like most are not using an asset management system, and then of those that are, some CityWorks and then some other. This has just been a trend that we've noticed recently in some parts of the country. Large city county government trying to get the most out of asset management systems and tying that into mosquito control operations. So I guess the point I'd like to make with that is that if you are using CityWorks or some other asset management system that is GIS-centric, then our FieldSeeker or Sentinel products can tie in with that and integrate with service request workflows or inventory workflows, etc. So just back to a few things about the Arcgis platform, and then I'll show some examples. The point that I want to make here is that Arcgis is not just ArcMap. Many of you in the audience probably have used ArcMap in the past, and it's a lot more powerful than most of us need on a day-to-day basis. Like I mentioned before, it's critical for things like editing parcels and editing networks, street networks or stormwater or whatever. But for a lot of the things that we need to do for visualizing and recording, it's more than we need. But ArcGIS is more than just desktop and server, and it's not just for GIS experts. It also includes ready-to-use apps for smartphones, tablets, and the web, things like Esri Collector and others that I mentioned. Also ready-to-use maps and map templates. Anyone who's been on arcgis.com and looked at the ready-to-use apps, there's a broad range of starting points available. It's also analytics, things like heat maps and simple things like geocoding addresses and getting routing directions. These kind of analytics can be real helpful in mosquito control operations. Heat maps that show trends and that allow us to see historical data visually. So I'm going to switch over to just a couple of examples here. And I'll bring this over. So one simple example is just a summary map that shows landing rates on a month-to-month basis, and being able to visualize how the landing rates would change from month to month. These are simple examples, but for management, operations management, and executive level management, this can really communicate where the trouble spots really are. And so this is an example of ArcGIS online status map. It's just aggregating some of the operational data that's collected on a day-to-day basis. Another example is just a real simple web map that shows district boundaries. And so this can be useful for public websites. You know, when someone moves into an area and they don't know who to contact, then they can search for their address, and there's the address. And so, you know, I'm in Twin Falls County Pest Abatement District, and here's the contact information and website. So this kind of a simple self-service map can easily be embedded in a public website using ArcGIS Online. And some of you may have, in fact, I know some of you already have done that are in the audience. Another example is Esri's GeoForm application. So this is an example of a service request GeoForm. You know, typical fill out this info, what kind of problem it is, and then select the location on the map. And so again, if I have a problem at my house, and you notice there's also the locate me. So if I'm using this on a tablet or a phone, then I can use the location sensor that's in it. It'll do the address geocode, but maybe the problem I'm reporting is actually next door in the backyard. So I can put that in there. And then I can fill out the information just like I would for any form and submit that. Now the nice thing about a GeoForm like this goes directly into the GIS. So in the example of FieldSeeker, for example, this GeoForm can be on the public website, putting service requests directly into the system that are then reviewed by a person and either assigned automatically or assigned manually to field techs. So rather than getting an email and then having to type the information all over again, the information is just immediately available in the system, and it's a location, a GIS location, not just a data form record. So those are a few examples of some of the ready-to-use apps and maps. I might just ask another poll question here about the GeoForm specifically, and ask if, so for those of you in the audience, who has a service request form on their public website? And it doesn't have to be the GeoForm, just any service request form. Okay, so about half yes and half no have a service request form on the public website. And so kind of a follow-up question on that, if you have a service request form, are you interested in using a GeoForm to be able to put that data directly into GIS to use in whatever system that you've got? Okay, so about half of you have voted. Looks like everybody's pretty interested in that. And so the nice thing with that app as an example, it's part of the ArcGIS Online ready-to-use, just configurable apps. And everyone has that's on the call today has access to ArcGIS Online. that subscription-based service from Esri is available if you have desktop licenses or server licenses. You're entitled to some ArcGIS Online named users. Okay, switch back to the presentation here. That's just the point I want to make in this particular slide. Oops, sorry about that. Is that we can help with that. So any of these examples that we've been showing, whether they're mosquito control related or not, I've been focusing on that because that's what I work with on a daily basis myself. But we can help you get these things set up. So if you have access to an ArcGIS Online entitlement and you don't know how to get that going and set up some of the the users and permissions and groups, we can help with that. We have the ArcGIS Online specialty designation from Esri, and we've got some services packaged around helping you get started with this, either setting some things up for you, delivering them to you, or helping you set them up so that you know how to do that and can repeat that with other things. Just one more poll and then I'll open it up for some questions. The new features that you're most interested in that we talked about, either in our software or in ArcGIS Online. And some of these we didn't talk extensively about, but these are more some of the features in the FieldSeeker software as an example. Okay, so most of you have voted. Some are interested in the on-truck inventory, some in the picture attachments. And some in the time-enabled map layers. Okay. Thank you for your responses on that. I'll go ahead and close that poll. All right, I'm going to look at questions now and see what's come in on the questions. Let's see. Okay, one question is, what do I have to do to get access to the ArcGIS Online entitlement if I have desktop? And so for that, one just has to contact the Esri customer service and ask for that ArcGIS Online account to be activated, and then they'll supply you with the initial access. You can go in and set up the user or users in there. It's one named user per desktop license, and then server also, depending on the server license level you have, you would get it more named users than that. Okay, one other question on that is, after the first year, is there any cost for the ArcGIS Online? And the answer to that is no. That ArcGIS Online entitlement for the number of named users per whatever license level is available year after year. Now, if you start to use ArcGIS Online a lot and have lots of maps and apps and want to add a bunch of users, then there are different subscription levels for different numbers of users. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. Okay, that's all the written questions that have come in. If anyone has an unanswered question that you'd like to ask while we're still on the call, I can unmute your line and you can ask it audibly or just type it into the question section. If not, I want to thank you for your time and attention this morning. We promised to keep it to 30 minutes, and we've kept it to 26. So If you have additional questions or would like to follow up and work together on any of these ideas, feel free to reach out to me. My email is there on the screen. Also some other contacts there. Many of you know Ryan Pearson, our software sales coordinator. So appreciate your time and attention, and we'll go ahead and stop the presentation for today.